Hey guys, let's explore the true Sigma versus Alpha differences and figure out which one you most likely are. I'm also going to give you 6 celebrity examples, and we're going to explore some of the things that all men can do, whether you're Sigma, Alpha, or even Beta, to be more appealing to the kind of women you want to get without compromising who you really are. Now, having grown up with an Alpha dad and a Sigma brother, I think I have probably a little bit more of an insight into the true differences between these two groups. So welcome to Just the Tip Tuesday. Let's get into it. 1, autonomy versus community. So the Sigma male tends to be the lone wolf of society. So they're alone, but not lonely. Big difference. So they tend to prefer their own company over most other people, even though they do require some connection, of course. But they would rather be alone than compromise their values or standards by being with anyone who doesn't meet their high standards, including women or any one particular woman. A good example of a Sigma male is Keanu Reeves. They also prefer not to lead, but not to follow. So they can step into leadership if need be, or if they really see that somebody is not doing an adequate job, then they will actually want to step into that position, but they don't feel that they have to. They don't feel diminished if they're not in a leadership role. I'm going to give you a really good example of another very well-known celebrity, not really in Hollywood, but you'll recognize the name later in the video, which might surprise you that he's actually Sigma, not Alpha. Now, of course, versus the Alpha, who prefers community and prefers to lead. So while an Alpha is comfortable in their own company, they like to be in a group and they like to be the leader of that group. And they do feel uncomfortable if they have to follow somebody else's lead because they feel that they can always do a better job. And they often can. Celebrity example of an Alpha is Charlie Sheen. So an Alpha male may or may not be lonely depending on how close his friendship and acquaintance connections are. So if he has some pretty good close connections and a good guy group, then he might not be quite as lonely as if he's lacking that. And this can apply to his romantic relationships as well. So if he's got a really good close network of guy friends, he will potentially be a little bit less longing towards having a romantic relationship, but he will definitely long for more romance if he's interested in a relationship than a Sigma male would or does. And while an Alpha man also has high standards for what he wants in a woman, if he's really lonely or longing to have that connection, he may be more likely to compromise on those standards, and I don't regret it, than a Sigma would. Number 2, rebel. So the Sigma male is definitely a man who goes against the grain just because. He doesn't like being told what to do, what to say, what to think, and will usually balk at trends no matter what they might be, whether they're lifestyle, society, clothing, any of those sort of things. He goes to the beat of his own drum. And they may express their rebellion in their style, in their dress, in their points of view, even in their career choice. A Sigma man would never be caught dead in the latest fashion. And Sigma males are often confused for bad boys because of their rebellious nature. Whereas an Alpha man will only go against the grain if it's in direct conflict with his values or beliefs or ideals. So an Alpha male will go against the grain if it's important enough to him, but not just because. Whereas a Sigma will tend to want to resist just for the sake of resisting. And while an Alpha male will follow trends, like for example, fashion trends, they're not actually followers. They're usually the first ones to jump on a trend and make it popular among the masses. So there could be lots of trends, but it's the Alpha who decides which trend is going to be popular because those men are the ones that are like, all right, this is going to be the new style today. And people tend to follow because of their confidence. Number 3, golden silence versus speaking up. So you probably know that the Sigma man is the strong silent type, or at least they come off as the strong silent type because they tend to keep their cards close to their chest. They don't reveal a lot about themselves, and they come off as very mysterious, sometimes even to the point of being closed off or having a wall to get to their inner world. Whereas alphas actually tend to wear their heart on their sleeve. They're very outspoken about their opinions and their beliefs, and oftentimes personal stories that really a Sigma would just never tell you. Even if you get really close with a Sigma or seemingly close and you know a Sigma for a long, long time, it may take forever for you to learn about maybe something that you wouldn't think should be that private at all. But Sigmas tend to be a lot more private about their lives than alpha men do. Neither is wrong, they're just different. And because the Sigma man often keeps his opinions and thoughts to himself, when they actually do speak up, people tend to listen more and pay more attention and give more credit and credibility to what they have to say, because they often don't say anything unless it actually is important and credible. Or at least that's how it comes off. Whereas people do listen to alphas because they're very outspoken and often animated and gregarious and all of that, but people don't necessarily believe everything they say because they tend to come with big stories. So while people listen to alphas, they don't necessarily give as much credit to every single thing an alpha might say. And this is part of why women do tend to find Sigma males really appealing, because they have this mystery about them, and women always want to get in there and be the one to crack the man code on the Sigma male. She's the one that's going to get all those little secrets out of him and earn his trust and be the one. Whereas it's a lot easier to get inside the mind of an alpha, because usually alphas share whatever is in their mind. Now, that doesn't mean that an alpha is not also appealing to a woman, because an alpha has the characteristic quality of being so outspoken and unapologetic about their thoughts that comes off as being very confident. And women instinctively translate that into an alpha being ready, willing, and able to stand up for her honor and protect her. Number 4, mysterious versus open book. So kind of going back to the same thing we just kind of discussed in the last point, is that a Sigma man is quite mysterious, whereas an alpha is usually an open book. He's got nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to hide. Everything is just put out there with just this array of confidence. Whereas the Sigma man tends to be confoundingly private. Like, it's really hard to get in there. And there's actually a YouTuber recently who released a video on Sigma versus Alpha differences. And he actually just went to a website and read some of the traits off of the site and then determined that he thinks he's a Sigma, but he's so not. If you actually look at what I've shared with you today and the few more that I'm going to share with you, he's definitely not a Sigma. And there's nothing wrong with being Alpha or Sigma. You may even have some crossover in these qualities, but definitely he's not a Sigma male. And later in the video, I'm actually going to share how to spot a Sigma versus Alpha YouTuber. Number 5, shadows versus spotlight. So this one's going to maybe seem a little obvious now that you've heard some of the other ones that I've given you, but let's go over it anyways. So a Sigma man tends to be more comfortable in the shadows than in the spotlight, whereas an Alpha man tends to be more comfortable in the spotlight than in the shadows. Now, of course, either one can adjust to either being in the spotlight or in the shadows if necessary, but their nature and their tendency is to want to be in a certain place. So a Sigma will tend to avoid situations where they have to be the center of attention, whereas an Alpha will tend to gravitate towards situations where they get to be the center of attention. And this has nothing to do with ego. They just do well in certain situations. So again, even though a Sigma can tell a good story, it has to be really important for them to get that story out there. So it's unusual for them to share it vocally, publicly. They might share it in a small group, and even that is a bit of a stretch. But the Alpha loves a good story. They're great storytellers, and people love hearing their stories because they're so adept at them. And again, whether a man is really mysterious or really boisterous, women are drawn to both. Number 6, and this one is where we're going to give you the celebrity Sigma that might surprise you. So 6 is eccentricity versus relatable AF. So of course, the Sigma man tends to be the men who are definitely on the eccentric side. They do not walk to the beat of everybody's drum. They walk to the beat of their own drum. They tend to find the unusual interesting And people often think of sigmas as kind of odd, but in a strangely appealing way. They are definitely the men who would vote independent, that is, if they believed in the voting system at all. And just before I give you the celebrity example, I'm going to go through the alpha on this one. So the alpha men, on the other hand, are very relatable. That's why they're so popular. Everybody loves them because they instinctively find a way to connect with every different kind of person. They tend to delve more into more common interests that most people like. They might know a lot more about sports and politics. Well, maybe not politics, but things that are really common amongst masses to have an interest in. So they can generally talk to anyone about anything and make that person feel really comfortable. And he's interested in things that other people are interested in, not because he's insecure, but just because he values being able to have those conversations with people that are common. So the celebrity example for a sigma male, based on eccentricity and the rest of these, is Elon Musk. So Elon is definitely a sigma male. Now you might think he's alpha because he is in the public eye and he is a leader, but he's in the public eye and he is a leader because no one can do as good a job as he can. That's definite. And he's adapted to being able to speak publicly and be the public figure for his companies because that's the most profitable thing for his companies. And it just makes sense. So while he is eccentric and he does have the qualities of being the lone wolf in his thinking and his being, he may appear to be an alpha because of his strong presence in the public eye. Now, an alpha man, another good example or a celebrity example of the alpha man is Gerard Butler. Everyone knows Jerry is my Jerry. And he is definitely an alpha male. He can assimilate into any group and be the leader, even if he's just been there for one day, or he can allow somebody else to be the leader, but he's very comfortable being in the lead. He's very comfortable sharing stories. He's very gregarious. He's very outspoken, wears his heart on his sleeve. And of course, based on all of these celebrities that I'm giving you are examples based on what I can see, not having known them, of course. Number 7, social norms. So while the sigma man finds convention boring, the alpha man uses convention to be able to more easily connect with people. And remember to stick around to the end because I'm going to give you how to become more attractive to all women, no matter whether you're sigma or alpha. So back to social norms. So the sigma man tends to drift in and out of groups and never really fits in. Not that he'd ever really want to. He feels some sense of connection with whoever he's with at the time, but he doesn't feel the longing to have some kind of long-term attachment to a person or group. Whereas the alpha man tends to have a group of buddies. He might even be the guy who's still had the same group of buddies since high school or even before that, and he's still connected with them and social with those people. And any other group that he gets into, he's really involved and settles in quite quickly and becomes part of the pack, usually the leader. Whereas the sigma, again, tends to not readily and easily attach to a group. He may never attach to a particular group, but he'll stay as long as it feels good, as long as there's no expectation or need of longevity. So here's one area where it is going to make an impact on your potential relationship with a woman. While a woman is drawn to the mysteriousness of this sigma male, she will actually feel safer and more comfortable with the consistency and connection of the alpha male. Now, since you stayed all the way till now, I'm going to give you 3 bonuses. Ready? Bonus number 1, disturbing the peace. Sigmas can sometimes be disturbers just for the sake of it. When things get too normal or boring, they will sometimes stir things up just to see what happens. It might even be a psychological social experiment. Usually it's nothing nefarious, but it can be. But an alpha will only stir things up if he really believes that it's for necessity's sake. They have a reason or a purpose behind it. Bonus tip number 2, fall hard, fall harder. So because the sigma male tends to be very inward drawn and closed off to people in general, it will usually take him a lot longer to fall for someone. But when he does fall, he falls hard. So there's a naughty in that. Okay, he falls hard, but not fast. And he may become or feel more attached to that connection because he doesn't have other close connections. So once you actually get in there, there's less of a chance that you're going to lose him or a woman's going to lose him because he'll be more attached to that person who he's finally allowed in because she deserves to be in. Whereas alphas, because they do have other connections and they have close relationships with other people in their lives, they tend to fall faster because they let everybody in and they share and they develop emotional connections right away, but they don't get quite as attached. So there is a deep attachment, but because they have other people that can also fulfill some of that need for connection and intimacy, not necessarily asexual intimacy, there's not as much intensity to the need for it to work out compared to a sigma. And because they have a lot of connections and they've experienced a lot more connections with women, they tend to know when they've really met a keeper. That's the alpha. Okay, and number 3, this one is going to be a bit of a surprise, maybe. But if you're a sigma, you probably won't be surprised. So number 3 is introversion versus extroversion. So at first glance, and this is completely surmised by moi, I would say that there are more likely to be sigmas who are introverts than there are sigmas to be extroverts, and there are more likely to be alphas who are extroverts than introverts. Now, it's definitely possible. There are definitely introverts who are alpha, but I would say that there are far more sigmas that are introverts than extroverts. So an alpha could be introvert or extrovert, definitely, but a sigma is probably more likely to be an introvert, just by the way they experience the world and are present in the world. And remember that introversion and shyness are 2 different things. Celebrity sigma example, Luke Wilson. Celebrity alpha example, his brother Owen Wilson. The best way to know the sigma versus alpha differences is whether your heart and thoughts are under lock and key or if you're an open book. Do women prefer sigma versus alpha? They like both. They like either. So the best way to attract the kind of girl you want to attract is just to be the kind of guy who attracts that girl. So be your best self, whatever that authentic self is. The way to be a real man to her with all the traits, well, not all the traits, but with the traits that all women love, is to watch my video on traits all women love and how to be a real man to her without compromising who you really are. So I'll put those somewhere. And as promised, the way to know if the YouTuber is sigma or alpha is whether or not he is in front of the camera or behind the camera. So the sigmas tend to be behind the camera. They might do voiceover, but there's going to be images or animation or B-roll or footage not of them on screen, whereas alphas will be on screen front and center. So which one are you? Do you think you are more sigma or more alpha? There is no wrong answer. Put it in the comments below and be sure to watch the video on how to be a real man to her traits all women love.